is a new, I would say this is probably, I don't know, 2-3 years, you think, Lori, that they decided to implement. There used to be a form for this designation here, and if you didn't complete the form, it was a required form, your policy couldn't get issued. So now they have integrated the question. I was looking at the version 15. Now they've integrated this question into the application, and they're not so strict on it. So if you don't answer this question, then they're assuming that you do not want to designate a third party. Their think is that at the end of this, you're signing and dating it. So when you sign and date it, you're acknowledging that you have reviewed everything that's been completed and that you are aware that you could allocate a third party designation. Existing and pending.
If I can speak to that, what that does is, if you read that, it says, okay, if my policy is about to lapse, please send a copy of that to me, but also send it over to so-and-so. You may be someone who spends half the year in Montana and half the year in Florida. You may not get your mail for 6 months. So it's nice to know that if your policy was about to lapse, then you could keep it from lapsing by having that letter go to somebody else who would call and say, hey, Mom, you forgot to make your insurance premium payment. You need to pay your premium or your coverage is going to lapse and no longer be there. So that's what that is. Often you'll see an agent will put his name in there, an address, and that's just because it's expected that he will always be there to take care of that if that happens. He'll be able to reach her.
Yes, correct. And one thing I want to point out, how I was explaining to you how this was implemented into the application, within a couple of years. It's important that lots of agents will print this application and keep it in their file for a couple of years. Well, the version has changed. So when they update the application to implement anything, because rules and regulations and compliance and all that is constantly changing, it's important that all of the applications are current and up to date. So this version here is super important. So, that's when the carriers will tell you, if you have the correct version or not. Unless you're going through a checklist, lots of general agents or case managers, they'll pull up the carrier website and match what they have compared to what's on the carrier when you pull application, and make sure that they have the current version. So I just wanted to point out that this 515 is representing May of 2015. This is the most current version. Existing and pending insurance, this is super important. Reason being is they want to make sure that if you have insurance currently in force, you're not going all over town and getting policies all over in different areas, which would make you overinsured. You don't want to be overinsured, because then, like I said before, you're worth more dead than you are alive. So it's up to the carriers to make sure that, first of all, number one, that you can afford the premium, and number two, that you're not overinsured. So this is basically asking, are you considering replacing, lapsing any of these definitions, stopping premium, surrendering, assigning it, any of this stuff? No matter how you slice it, it's considered a replacement. Your intent is to do something to that policy that's been enforced. So let's say I do have an enforced policy. Next question is, and let's say it's with principal.